This is The Fort Builders, the podcast where we explore the moments, memories, and meaning that made someone who they are, and discover what we might build in our own lives because of it. I'm your host, Lance Johnson. Welcome to The Fort. Let's begin. Well, hello, everybody. I'm really excited about today's guest and today's interview. I think it will be probably high energy and impactful, but my guest today is Kirsten Flory. She's somebody I've known for quite a while in our local community and someone I really admire and very entrepreneurial. And I know we're going to get into the stuff, and I would butcher all of your accolades and everything you've got going on. But at a minimum, you are the founder and owner of Foundations Commercial Real Estate. So if that's not enough, you've also started and host the Small Business Mindset podcast. And I think you had mentioned to me, it's over 100 episodes, which puts you very top % of the upper echelon of number of podcasts. So I'm a little intimidated, a little nervous today to come up against somebody that's that established.
Oh my gosh.
And then I know a while back you had written a book and maybe have written more books, but more important than all of that. So, what I really admire about you, two things. One is you are not afraid to go for it. And to take a chance, and we're going to hear. I want to hear a lot more about that, and then the second is you're very generous with your time in the community. I talk a lot about time, and you're generous with that, and you give back, and so I love that about you. But again, excited about our conversation. I think we could take up a lot more than the 3 or 4 hours that we're going to do today. Yeah.
I have to go to bed sometime.
Right. With that, I'll turn it over to you and let you fill in the blanks of what I missed as far as, who are you right now, I guess? What do you got going on?
Oh, and thank you. That was very humbling. For those listening, I'm so proud of Lance because Lance has jumped into the podcasting space, and that is a big leap. And I think a lot of people that have reached out to me over the years because of wanting to start a podcast, as you probably know, Lance, it's not that hard, really. It's just trying to find your voice. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, if you go back and listen to my podcast when I first started it, I launched it in November of 2019. I probably sound like a robot. In fact, my teenage son, because teenagers know everything. They like your biggest critics.
Yep. I'm on my third. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you sound like a robot. You sound so scripted. And my advice to you over time, I think you and I have talked about this before, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I have gotten comfortable over my lifetime about taking risks, and it didn't come easily at all. And it came with a lot of moments where my hands were shaking. I was sweating. I felt like I was going to throw up. But it's kind of like just any other big thing you do, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And, Lance, I know we also have in common, we're both distance runners. We've run marathons. And I think that in itself, pushing your physical body to a limit like that is a great way to test out your mental and emotional capacity too. And so, anyone listening that is thinking about how do I jump in and do the big thing, do the big hairy goal, take on that new client, ask the question, go do something physical first and see how you feel physically. Because I think if you can get comfortable with how you feel physically, everything else just falls into place. So if there's anything about who I am, I said that's probably a good glimpse into
Well, since you kind of pointed it back at me a little bit and mentioned it, I'll share that you're right physically, and you brought up distance running, and I would tell anybody out there, I'm going to use the air quotes around.
Yeah, I love
I always tell people that I put air quotes around my running. My goal is usually just to finish, so I'm not going to use time or speed in that equation. But you're right. Several years ago I took that up, and at some point, it became marathon type workouts, and that was a goal. But This is kind of felt like that. You're right. I kind of did the physical, and I learned that, okay, you can get somewhere from a physical standpoint, which, again, if you're a distance runner, there's mental to that as well. You've got to tell
Most
your body to
definitely.
keep going, right?
Most
So
definitely.
this has been a big step for me. When you say it's pretty easy, it really, the technology makes it really easy. Although I will say, I'm pretty tech challenged. I've tried to coach one of my youngest teenager to. Uh, I've said, hey, would you help me post this stuff? I mean, I know you know how to do this a lot better, so I'm already fumbling at that. But you're right, the technology's out there to help. I want to also give you props because, again, you are part of the reason that I'm here doing this, and I've wanted to do this for couple years. I've had it kind of on my heart, or it's in your gut just saying, hey, you got to do this. And I reached out to you again because I admire you and what you've done. And I think I already knew what answer you would give me if we went to lunch and I said, hey, should I do this? So I was looking for that push.
Like,
And
yes.
yeah. So you did not talk me out of it. Part of me was wanting a little bit of that, but no, you encouraged me, and I appreciate that. So
Oh, you're very welcome. Here's
yeah,
something I've also found too. I'm so glad you asked because I love having those conversations because I love enthusiasm and ideas and just being curious about other people. I think you're the
yeah,
same. And because you're
yes,
just asking the questions, you want to know more. And I love the topic of this podcast, the Fort Builders, because you're digging in and you're being curious and you're finding out what makes people tick, because even though we might look similar, sometimes you might see two people in business or the world and you're like, they seem pretty similar. I guarantee you they're put together a lot differently and they have their own motivations and reasoning for that. Another
no
thing too,
doubt. Yep.
I think I love it when people are willing to ask questions about, like, how did you do this, or how did this come to be? What I've also found out is that people that have done it before and that are successful at it are more than likely always happy to share with you. In fact, that's been my experience. I said, go find that pie in the sky person and go ask them questions. The people that aren't willing to share with you probably are, one, intimidated by you, or scared they're going to lose market share to you. And so they'll probably clam up. So those are not the people you want to talk to, the non-successful people. You want to see people that are doing it, that are in the trenches, that are doing it.
Yeah, yes, and I will say that it can be part of your journey and where you're at on it, because there was a time, and that could just be age. I mean, like I said, I'm older now, getting ready to celebrate a birthday here soon, and I know you have recently mentioned you celebrated a big one.
I
So I
did.
would not have said that, but I think you put it out there first.
I did. I'm
Yeah,
50 now.
okay, there you go. Happy birthday! Welcome to the club.
I'm
Yes.
embracing this. It's kind of cool.
I told somebody the other day, I've never gotten that excited over my own birthday. I've never really understood it. I understand it from my
Probably because you're a
parents.
guy.
Y- y- I understand it from my parents to get excited about my birthday, and I understand it now that I've got kids because I get so excited about those. But I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
once I hit 50, and
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to celebrate kind of a little more of each
You should.
birthday. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of, yeah, you know. Um, so I forgot. I lost my train of thought where we were. This is good
You
stuff.
know, talking with people that are, we were chatting about how if you ask for advice from people that have been there, done that, have been successful,
Yeah.
you know,
Y-
it's they're an open book.
So, well, yeah, and to that, again, kind of that journey, I think it can be sometimes that maybe they don't find you intimidating or not. They just haven't come to the place where they're comfortable, or even recognize it and the impact it might have had on them. So just as somebody that's experienced, I would say some lows and some highs.
Mhm.
Um, there were times in my life I wouldn't have been willing to share, or
Sure.
if I was, I wouldn't have been good at it. And I'm not saying I am now. It's just I've become more comfortable with it,
Good.
and through some of that experience, I don't know when it started, but a real sense of curiosity. I've just got such a sense of curiosity about people, and I love to
Mhm.
hear what they're about. And you had it's crazy. You had a recent podcast. I think it's your most recent one about. I think I can't. I'm going to butcher the title, but it's not about the scorecard, right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. that I find just great, because sometimes we just pay attention to accolades and successes and that, but we don't get down a little bit and get more to the human side of things. And
Absolutely.
I love
It's
that podcast that you had. Yeah.
gosh, especially with gosh, the social media and the feeling that you have to keep up or somebody's doing more than you or somebody, it just has curated their lifestyle so much and it looks amazing. I mean,
Right.
I always ask people, I'm
I-
like, I love to travel. So please post your travel photos and videos so I can live vicariously through you. Not so much that
Absolutely.
I want to compare myself to them, but it makes me feel good that they're having a good time. But I also find myself too when I travel a lot of times I'm not posting a darn thing until I get home
Right.
because I want to be present on the vacation. And it's
Yep.
not about the photos. It's about me living that, me, having that moment with my husband and staring at the water and having a great dinner, whatever it is, because that makes life more fulfilling. But it's also getting comfortable with that because I think as naturally as humans, we like feeling validated. We
Hmm.
like feeling seen and acknowledged and feeling like, hey, we're doing something right, or people, we're reaching out and things like that. But that's where the challenge comes from too. It's that one-on-one conversation that I think we're lacking, in
Yes.
this day and age that I encourage you, and that's where the curiosity comes in. If you're just going to be a curious person, people love to talk. People love to talk about
Uh,
themselves,
yeah. You.
believe it
Yes.
or not.
And unfortunately, we're at a time where I hate to use. I'm not going political, but it just seems there's polarization. There's either you're in
Sure.
that camp or this camp,
Mhm.
and we forget that we're all very similar. I had my life coach actually shared this with me the other day, and it's stuck. But hey, so it's going to go back to that 5-year-old. I like to
Mhm.
think of us
Mhm.
sometimes as that 5-year-old in kindergarten,
Yeah.
and because this is before this is back when we were creative and we're naive and we didn't have the pressures and we didn't know. But
Internet didn't exist.
it did well. Right, right. At least for us when we were, yeah. But it's kind of like, hey, you've got a belly button. I've got a belly button. Oh, that's cool. Well, let's go play. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that is pretty simple, but I think sometimes we really get away from we're so much more alike than we are different. And not only that, how we all have fear. We have the emotions just like anybody else. A billionaire can have fear.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure, there's days I'd love to be a billionaire because you think that that'd solve everything, but they go through emotions as well. And those are real for whoever's got them. Wherever you're at, you're going to feel that. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
it's interesting. You just said to feel seen or validated.
Mhm.
I just did an episode. In fact, it was Stephanie mentioned kids aren't really scared of the dark. They're scared of being alone in the dark. And that's just to me that is just so true. Sometimes we all just want somebody to be there with us
Yeah.
as we're doing something. So again, taking this leap, you're kind of here with me. You're here not physically holding my hand, but you help me at least take this jump. Okay, so
Well, thank you.
we've talked about curiosity, and I want to let's go back. And
Okay.
you mentioned we didn't have internet when you were 5. If
Yeah.
you can take us back to little Kirsten, take us back as far as you can or want. But what were you like? Who were you?
Oh boy. Okay. So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. My parents still live there in the house I grew up in. My dad
Okay.
worked for corporate America, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until my youngest sibling was in school, and then she worked part-time. And I was didn't realize it at the time. I was very blessed to have that dynamic, come
Hmm.
home every day and you have a hot meal ready for you and, a loving parent that was there. I mean, and I think they call it, as I got older, like latchkey kids. I never had that, which was
Mm,
amazing, and I
hmm.
took it for granted. On the flip side, though, I had a dad who was very controlling and had anger issues. And so I grew up in a household that sometimes was wonderful and other times we walked on eggshells.
Mm,
And I have an older brother and a younger sister. And, it's interesting to see the dynamic with if you have siblings in a household and they always say, you could be raised in the same household with the same parents and turn out
yep.
completely different. And
Yeah.
my brother and my sister we're very close. They live in other parts of the country, but their childhoods were different than mine. for a lot of different reasons. And I think back in so when I was a young person, it was the 1980s. And then coming into the 1990s, I think I still very much saw the struggle of how women are seen, not only from a place in the household to a place in life,
Hmm.
and how much they're thought of, what their value is, what their opinion is, how they have to work to be seen.
Yeah.
I think to me that was a very prevalent thing. And I think and how that shaped me going forward, I remember looking around thinking, okay, why can't I do this or be this or whatever, even though I was told that maybe I couldn't be. And I was thankfully, my brother and sister and I, we were all great kids. We got great grades. We did all the things. We got into college. And it was almost like a scorecard. Like I could never beat the scorecard of life with my dad. It was never that. But I was
Mm.
surrounded by people that were, I mean, I was very fortunate. I had a great friend group growing up. I was kind of the middle of the pack. I went to a very large school system. So it was fine. But I was fortunate that I had different influences of friendships and coaches and teachers around me that you saw. I think this is the most important thing. I got to see other relationships in action, other, parental relationships with my friends' parents, like, positive and negative and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's something as a young person I absorbed and thought, okay, what do I want to be like? What do I want my future, marriage to be like, my friendships to be like, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, I didn't have all bad childhood. I mean, I really had a very nice childhood, but
Yeah.
I think that dynamic was incredibly impactful to me as a young person trying to find your way. And so when I left home to go to school and I moved to Lawrence, Kansas and attended the University of Kansas, I did not go home. I did not return home on purpose. And I would say, thankfully, I have a very good relationship with both my parents today. They are wonderful people. And I'm actually going to go see them again soon, but which has been great. But it's been a journey. And so I think for me, I mean, it's probably way more than you want to hear about my
Mm.
childhood, but I
Not at
think
all.
our childhoods and our impression and our relationship with our parents, our relationship with money,
Yep.
very much shapes the people that we are. And so on the money topic, I think regardless of what kind of household you grew up in, whether you're really poor or really well off, the relationship with money and how it's talked about to you impacts how you treat money going forward. So I grew up in a household, I think probably like a lot of us did. I had everything I needed,
Yep.
some of what I wanted, but the conversation around money, I had no idea how much my parents made.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
the way
I
they
didn't.
talked about it, we felt like we were scraping by sometimes. I know that now is probably not the case at all. They were just very frugal with their spending, which is great. But they never talked to me about like what are the expectations and how do you responsibly handle money? And I always got that like we can't afford this, money doesn't grow on trees. It
Mhm.
was a very scarcity mindset as far as money's concerned. And so even at a young age, experiencing all of that, and it was kind of confusing to me because I thought I saw in them they wanted more, but yet it's like they wouldn't let themselves think that they could have more. It was a very
Mm.
interesting position. And I see that a lot today in a lot of adults, who I really want to do more, but am I worthy of it?
Mm.
Am I valued enough to earn more or have more? And so as I got into college and, working part-time jobs and then getting into career, I started to observe people and I thought, okay, I I don't wanna live this way. I don't wanna live in a scarcity mindset. I wanna have abundance in my life, but what does that mean? And so that's where the curiosity comes in. I
Yeah.
started asking people and connecting people, and I was very fortunate. I had a lot of great mentors throughout my career who I would ask those questions to. How does this work? How did you get to live in that big house? How did you get to own this business? How did you save that? How did that work for you? And I was very lucky that they started telling me about it. And I'm thinking, oh, and they didn't feel very intimidated about it. Some people did, but the people that matter the most, the people that I'm still in contact with today, um, wow, what a great conversation. And I always told myself, I said, when I grow up, when I'm in control of my life and achieve
Yeah.
goals that I'm going to go after, right? I want to be just like that person that mentored me. I want to be
Mm.
calm and engaged and helpful. And I want to provide a listening ear to somebody, because that to me is wealth. That to me is sitting next to somebody that is so comfortable and confident in their being and is
Uh-huh.
happy and, puts their relationships first and is respectful and trustworthy. It's like anything can happen. And I feel
Yeah.
like creating not only a mindset, but also a being in myself over time that I've created this, it's like the floodgates open with opportunity and possibility, which is pretty cool.
Very
So
cool.
how's that for a deep dive, Lance?
Yeah, I'm sitting here. Well, that was awesome. Um, yeah, there's a few things in there. Well, first I wanted to say I can relate on not only the period you grew up. I think we grew up similar time frames and probably similar dynamics. I can't say my dad was the same as your dad and all that, but
Sure, yeah.
from a talk about money or not talk about money, it was a mystery. And
Yeah.
yeah, we always felt, and we were fine, but we always
Yeah.
felt like, oh gosh, we don't have any, but we were fine.
Right.
But I'm going to say there's been times let's say over the last several years that as I've kind of gone through my journey, that I might evaluate my parents. I'm definitely evaluate them different now than I did many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even recently, I'll evaluate them with a critical eye, but then I got to remind myself that I'm raising 3 kids myself,
Yeah.
and they may be judging, who knows how they're judging me. So, yeah, there's times. So I say all that I think there is periods when a kid or the sibling, the child is going to look and judge their parent a certain way, but ultimately, broad strokes, big picture, did they feel loved?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they made a lot of mistakes, just like I I don't know as a parent, do we ever figure it out? I don't know because yeah,
I also don't
I
know.
haven't met a
Yeah.
parent yet that will say we've got it figured out. Now,
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of being a grandparent, at least the
I've heard this.
grandparents out
Yeah.
there that I meet, they won't say they figured it out, but at least they know enough that they can spoil and do whatever they want and then just give them back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Ah.
So,
Yeah, I've heard the same thing too. And I think as
y
adults, if you think back to your childhood, and then if you're a parent yourself, many times you make decisions based on, well, I hated it when my parents did this to me, or they
yeah,
reacted this way, so I'm going to do it the opposite. And I've done the same thing. I've had those hard conversations with my kids
yeah,
about sensitive topics that I didn't feel good. I mean, I was nervous going into it, but I look back on it and I have to remind myself, with my kids and also honestly with my parents and a lot of adults, sometimes people don't know because they've never experienced that before. I mean, whatever the heck it is. And especially as adults, they won't ask questions because they make you sound dumb.
yeah,
And so they'll, even if they've never, I don't know, they've never filed their own taxes,
right,
for example.
right,
'Cause
yeah,
maybe their spouse did it for them, I know, and they've never done it themselves. But instead of asking the question and just saying, I've never filed my own taxes, for example, they don't want to come off sounding ignorant. So they just,
right,
you know,
yep,
avoid it at all costs. I'm thinking, okay, it's okay if you haven't done that. I'm not going to
yeah,
judge you for it. But we're afraid to ask because we're afraid to be judged.
yeah.
So, I mean, and I hope I can be, I don't know how, rated your podcast is, as far as like, are we okay to go PG to PG-13 here, or are we okay? Okay.
We're fine. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I thought
I think most
this
of
is
our
a good
I would
story.
tell you, let me just say this. I think it's fair to say most of our listeners would be adults. One of the many reasons I'm doing this podcast is because I've got 3 kids that I'll try to say certain, let's say, lessons or
Yeah, sure.
dadism, or just some advice.
Right.
It feels like it's A, not being heard, or B, I might see it as it just goes over their head. So
Of course.
part of this is
Absolutely.
hoping they
Yeah.
might listen a little
Listen,
and
right on.
but I know what they watch and things like that. I think we're past PG-13, so you're
Okay,
good.
cool.
All
Well,
good.
the story I was going to share, when my daughter, who's now adult, when she started in college, and I moved her into the dorm, I thought, okay, I mean, the older you get, the the most amazing thing is like, okay, just time passed it. I still feel like I'm 20, you know, I still feel like I'm
Oh,
18 going to college. I
yep.
remember that vividly in that experience. And so we moved my daughter into the college dorm, and here's the PG-13 part. I brought a big box of condoms with me. And I
Okay.
said, "Here, honey." And she just looked at me. And I
Uh-oh.
said, "You know, I am not naive to the ways of college students. I'm going to, here you go, put it somewhere where you have access to it, and it's there. And if you run out, then I will help you buy more, or whatever we need to do." But, you know, I share that as an example of, I mean, I know I shared that with some other parents, and they said, "You did what?" I'm like, "Come on." You know, it's just,
Mhm.
it's like, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. And I'm like, and I would say I do the same thing with life and business. I'm like, I'm going to
Yeah.
just call it out. I'm going to call out the elephant in the room, and I'm going to say, here's how you can handle this in a probably a positive way.
Yeah.
Please do. And let's talk about it, you know?
It's funny you brought up that PG-13 example. I had somebody tell me when they found out I had my first daughter going to college.
Uh-huh.
He just said, I got one piece of advice for you. If you're going to go visit, give them about an hour warning before you get there. Don't show up at the door and surprise
Boom,
them.
boom, boom, boom,
So
boom. Yeah,
because I'm
that's
just based on experience, just I'm saving you a little bit of just give them a warning.
that's right.
So
That's right.
anyway,
It is also hard as your children get older to remember, okay, now they're an adult. You have to treat them like an adult. You know, it's hard
yeah,
not to revert back
yeah.
into that thing. So
Well,
I
I'm going to
know.
rewind a little bit on you because
Okay.
once you said, "Hey, it's deep." How is that? So I love that kind of what you said, and it resonates from to me. I hear be present, and so time is something that I think we both would agree is so valuable,
Right.
and something I've learned over time, or at least I'm always challenged of being present, and I've also really gained an appreciation for those that have been present with or for me.
Hmm.
And I think
Sure.
what you kind of said a little bit ago, and maybe that's not what you were saying, but at least I'm hearing that being able to get to a place in your life that you can be there for someone. So I don't know if that's wealth or time or whatever, but
Hmm.
some of the characteristics it felt like you were saying was you're not rushed, or at least if you are, you're not showing it. You're
Yeah.
able to be there and just sit with someone, hear them. And yeah, again, that can be part of getting older, and that we get to that place where we might have a little more, let's call it wisdom. I could probably use
Yeah.
air quotes again, but
Sure.
and maybe wanting to mentor or give something back, but appreciating that and being able to do that. So
Hmm. I would say
appreciate
you
you sharing
mentioned,
that.
yeah. I also think too, starting in my career, so my career trajectory, I graduated from college. I
Hmm.
was a communications major.
Which,
I
by the
mean,
way, rock chalk.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I don't want to limit the listeners on here, but anybody that
We're a
knows
little
me,
biased.
I'm definitely, I usually don't hold back. So yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
good. It's
Yeah,
amazing how connected that brand is across the globe, which is pretty
yeah.
cool. So I feel
I
like we're well
support others,
connected.
but
That's right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, but you know, my career trajectory took a variety of ways, but I think there was a through line. I've always been in a sales development type of environment, whether I was working in marketing advertising, I worked in nonprofits, I was in banking, and then real estate for the last almost 14 years. And you know, the through line has always been that, okay, it's the connection with people and
Hmm.
businesses, learning about them, and then trying to bring value. And one of the ways as I was getting my career started was, okay, if I need to be seen, I need people to think of me and see me as an expert in my chosen field. So volunteerism was a great way to do that. And as you know, throughout your life, it's like, okay, I wanted to pick volunteer opportunities, one, that were passionate for me, you know, that I feel like, okay, I
Hmm.
like doing this thing.
Hmm.
And then two, ones that I could actually make a difference. And I will tell you, and I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute, I absolutely despise people that get on a board or a committee. I don't care if it's you're volunteering at a soup kitchen to serve on Thanksgiving Day, or you have to show up because you're having a finance committee meeting. I It frustrates me to no end when somebody signs up for something like that and then they never show up.
Sure. Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
we can think of all those people, like their names on the board roster, they're on the website, it's on their resume, and they're never there.
Yeah.
And to
Y-
me, that's a cop out.
Well, yes, but I'm also, and this again, it's taken time to learn this too. But sometimes they say sometimes the gift is in the giving. So
True.
part of that is they're missing out.
Oh,
On that
sure.
that
Yeah.
time, right? But you're exactly right. Sign up and then
Right.
or I will say some that say they're gonna, not only
Mm,
sign up but then say I'm gonna do it and
mhm.
or I'll be there and then
Right. And then
they
they don't.
aren't, right?
They don't. I mean,
Which it
I
makes a lot
realize that
easier.
life
Yeah,
happens
yeah,
sometimes, but I think you
oh
and I can
yeah,
probably think of all kinds of people. Our listeners probably can too. It's like, oh yeah, I know that person. I mean, and I've been chair of boards before. I've had to call people up, and I'm happy to do it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to excuse you from the board now.
and that is it is, isn't
Yeah,
that
it is.
tough to fire a volunteer? I mean,
It
because they
is
say, well, gosh, how much are you paying me?
nothing. Yeah.
Right.
I am thankful though that I can think about. It's probably been about 4 or 5 people I've had to do that to over the years, and
Yeah,
we all have great relationships
yeah,
because I frame it in a way. It's like, I know you're busy, you know, but I need people that can be here because these are
yeah,
important decisions we're making.
yeah,
So I would say board service and that volunteerism throughout my career has helped me build my career,
mm,
hands down.
hmm,
I mean, that alone, it's because I think depending on the different organizations, whether it's more of a business focus like a chamber of commerce, maybe it's more of an arts organization or some other type of charity, they all
yes,
function very differently, but a lot of times they have to function like a business. So if you're somebody that wants to be a business owner or wants to achieve a leadership position within your company and you're like, I don't have those skills yet, volunteer to serve on a board. I mean, you will
yeah,
learn very quickly, and some are better than others, very quickly how to manage that. You'll understand all aspects of that organization, rules of conduct, communications, showing up, responsibility, and you're not getting paid for it. So it's kind of like a free internship in a way, where you can plug into.
that is such a good point. And sitting there thinking, just those that are, hopefully we have a listener or two out there, but if they are listening to us, that to them that then sometimes the diversity of just, you get outside your bubble, and your bubble might be your office, and that's who
Yep.
you're around every day, but you get to hopefully see and meet others that are in other fields of work, other perspectives. It goes back to relationship. And I would bet that, like you said, all that work and time you put in over the years, it rubs off on you. Like you said,
Yep.
little things you're learning and noticing, but at the same time, the people that you're, let's call it in the foxhole with, right? You're trying to meet budgets, you're trying to raise money, you're trying to execute an event. You're there. I mean, it takes
Yeah.
work, and you're doing that
Yes.
together. Most of the time, you're not getting paid. So
Right.
there's purpose, and when you are kind of galvanized around a purpose and you're doing it together, that can be very rewarding. And it's one of those things too that I've found that I can look back on some board work I did, let's call it 20 years ago, and still see those people in the community, and there's a kindred, there's a bond there.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
sometimes you don't realize that when you're doing it, but it comes back to you later.
Hmm.
And very rewarding. So
Absolutely.
I,
And
I
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry. Nope. Go
And
ahead.
I've been on boards and I've thought, I've had to excuse myself because for a
Mm,
variety of reasons. One,
mhm.
I felt like I was missing too much. I couldn't commit to the physical time. And I'm like, I'm not doing anyone a service because I can't be here because that's important.
Yeah.
And or maybe my passion shifted. I'm like, hey, I really need to focus on something else right now. You know, I would say any board I've ever been on, more than likely, I want to strive to be the chair of the board or be on the executive team. There are very few boards I've been on where I didn't. And I think that's telling to me too. I'm like, whether they're a well oiled machine and some of them I've been on, they have, I'm like, I can't provide extra value here. And I think for me, I just don't want to serve to serve. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
donate or I'll go to the event or whatever like that. But I'm like, if I'm going to be on your board, I want to be an impactful
Yeah.
board member where I can provide something, but at the same time, I want to learn something from you.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah. But I don't want to run out of time without asking you this question. And I
Yes,
know
go for it.
it's on your path and on your journey, but
Yeah.
I find this somewhat amazing because I know a lot of bankers, and their makeup is not usually risk-taking, and they're usually they like structure,
Yes,
support. And so you were a banker.
I was a
How do you get
banker.
from banking, or how do you even get into banking? But let's just say, how
Mhm,
do you go from banking to jumping off the cliff? So steady paycheck,
mhm,
structure, working for an
mhm.
organization, you say, I'm going to jump. And
Yeah,
there's no guarantee.
right.
That takes a lot of guts.
It
So
does.
yeah, tell me about that.
So I got into banking on accident.
Okay.
I was I was working.
Okay, this could be
Isn't that
interesting. Yeah.
crazy? Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
by
strive to go into
accident.
banking. Yeah,
Okay.
by accident. I mean,
Okay.
it sounded
Huh.
boring to me. Why would I wanna be a banker?
Okay.
That doesn't
So,
sound
well,
very sexy. It's like, "Oh," you know?
you said your parent there was always a mystery, right? And so maybe, yeah, maybe they held the money away from you too much, you wanted to go see. So, but
Maybe
anyway,
so.
I'll get out of your way. Yeah.
So, I was actually working for a nonprofit at the time, and I called on this
Okay.
particular bank, as for a sponsorship. So, I went in and pitched him. And at the time, and you see a lot of banks transitioning to this. So this was back in 2005, and the head of the organization called me back, and they ended up sponsoring the thing I was asking him to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they said, you know what, we're actually we have this new position called business development. I said, okay. And they're like, we
Okay.
think you should apply for it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be a banker. I know. I kind of just like, no. And the funny thing is, when I ended up, like, just come in an interview, put a resume together. Okay. I did it very unwillingly.
Mhm.
Um, and then so I went in, and they offered me the job, and it was like way more money than I was making. And I remember my husband was like, when they offered me the job, he's like, why are you hesitating? And I said, because, so here's something that's true about me. I always knew I could make money at something,
Mm.
whatever it was.
Mhm.
But I also know we spend a lot of time at our work, a lot of time. I mean,
Yes.
and I'm like, I never want to be in an environment where I don't feel good. I don't feel valued. I don't have a good team. I'm not supported. And so
Mhm.
I had that at the nonprofit I work for, and it was wonderful. I loved everything about it. Money wasn't there, but it was enough at the time that we were
Yeah.
making. I knew I wasn't going to stay there forever, but this kind of just fell in my lap, and I'm like, okay, I'm so glad I took the leap, because ironically enough, the similarities between the two were very. I mean, the dynamic and the passion and the mission. And I found out, I mean, I'm also a firm believer is that you can learn any skill. Anyone can learn a skill. Well,
Mhm.
you can't always, what's harder to learn is drive and
Oh, sure.
tenacity and curiosity and going after it and finding that mix.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when I said earlier, my through line has always been like the sales business development side of business, because like I said, I jumped different industries and I had to learn different industries, but those were all like these little stepping stones to kind of putting together really my company today.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
no doubt.
yeah,
Okay. I totally see the threat. When you said business development,
right.
that that really fits. I mean, it's
Yeah.
relationships, it's connecting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
people.
then we get to talk about money, which is really
Well,
cool. So I
it
got to understand all that too, which was exciting and empowering to me, and to
well,
understand all that dynamic.
where I want to go with that is I want you to talk a little bit about what you've got going now. So I would say, what's the fort, to use the metaphor, what's the
Yeah,
fort you're building now? And
right.
tie that to, I would assume, those banking chops, the banking that you learned, finance and
Mhm.
all those, got to be pretty valuable in what you
Yeah,
do now. Yeah. Not only
yeah,
for your business, but for your clients.
absolutely. To connect the dots real quick, I
Yeah.
was in banking for about 8 years, and great company, I thought I'd stay there. And then I got an annual review from my boss, who was in another state. He said, "You're doing a great job, but you just maxed out your salary." And I thought, okay, I didn't know that was a thing. And I wasn't looking for another job. And I made good money, I had great benefits. I mean, it was just
Uh-huh.
everything was great. But the one thing I did notice is that it was getting too easy. I wasn't feeling
Mm.
as challenged anymore, which
Mhm.
is okay. And that's actually when I decided. I published a book that year. I mean, so a lot of things started like percolating. And at the same time, just kind of out of left field, a friend asked about if I would consider getting into real estate. And I immediately said no. And I'm like, I have no desire to go into a field where I'm making 100% commission.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But I also have a very strategic analytical side of my brain. And I said, well, show me the numbers. Show me. And I'm a spreadsheet person, and I said, I want to see your performance. I want to see your last 10 years. I want to see the market share. Go, 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 go. Put this all together for me. So about 6 months later, after putting all this together and making a plan with my husband, and we took out a home equity line of credit.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this. And the funny thing is, I think,
scary.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
But I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. I think that was the
Hmm.
underlying thing. Dale asked me, Dale's my husband. He's like, I guess the question is, do you think you could do it? I'm like, yeah, I think I can. I think it's going to be hard, but I'm excited about it and what that looks like. So here's the funny thing. Real estate allowed me to dip my toe into business ownership before I started my company. Because what
Mm,
enticed me
mm.
about real estate wasn't the real estate part of it. It was the fact that I could own my own business. So I
Yeah.
wrote my business plan for my company today that long ago in 2013.
Wow.
I
Okay.
did. And at the
Yeah. So real estate
time,
was a path for you to
real
be a
estate was a
business owner.
path,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having the banking expertise coming into real estate, it just made it so much easier. I understood the dynamic, the commercial
Yeah.
lending side, all that kind of stuff. And so really it was just learning the real estate side, which isn't, if you understand the banking side going into that, probably similar to you, Lance. I mean, you were, coming from an engineering, doing real estate. I mean, there's a lot of connections there as far as
Yes.
how that all comes together.
Uh-huh.
So it was a skill I had to learn, but wasn't crazy complicated. The other thing that was enticing to me too, not just getting into real estate, was that a couple of the colleagues that I worked with in that office were considering retirement in the next few years.
Hmm.
And so I thought, okay, well, this is interesting too. Um, you know, being able to grow a market share. The friend that asked me to join her in business said to me at the time, hey, when these two retire, I've always kicked around, maybe we start our own brokerage. I'm
Hmm.
like, well, that's interesting, right?
Yeah. Right. That's
There
hitting
you
you.
go.
Yep. Yep.
And so I'm like, hey, guess what? I have a business plan. Let's talk about it. As I kind of went forward with that over time, I realized that friend and colleague never had any desire to do that, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But I think this is probably pretty relatable to a lot of people. I think so many times we wait for others to give us permission to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I've done
because
that a lot.
it's more comfortable. It's more
Yes.
comfortable. It's like, well, if they're with me, we'll do it together, and we'll march
Yes.
forward, and we'll have each other's backs, kind of thing, right?
Back to you don't want to you're not afraid of the dark, but you need somebody with you in that journey. You need somebody with you. Yeah. Yeah. And
Hands
if you
down.
can't find somebody, yeah, it keeps people from anyway, sorry. Yeah,
No, but
you're right on.
that is
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then COVID happened, and COVID allowed me. I feel like COVID was a disaster, but it was
Oh,
also a
just
great
yeah.
time
Throw a
for
bomb and
people to
everything.
reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
And
Yep.
so for me, working from home, and I pulled the business plan back out and I refreshed it and I took a hard look at it and I thought, I went on a lot of walks and did a lot of reflection. I'm like, you know what? Why am I waiting? Why am I waiting for this other person to say, yes, we're ready to go, ready to go? I'm like, because I'm ready to go. And
Hmm.
so in September of 21, I jumped ship. I left. And I'll be honest with you, it was not pretty. It
Yeah.
was not pretty at all. And I actually had found another partner to partner with. And looking back on it, I probably didn't need that, but I felt I did at the time.
Yep.
This is
Right.
an Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
Totally get that. Yeah. I can totally. Yeah. I
because
can relate
honestly,
to
I
you.
love partnerships. I love
Hmm.
collaborating with other
Same.
people,
Yep.
especially when you feel like, okay, they bring different skill sets to the table and we can learn from each other. We can bounce off each other. The other thing I would tell your listeners that my experience in going through this, being an independent contractor, commission based, okay, getting my legs with that, jumping into business ownership with a partner, I had like a gut check going into it, something telling me that something was off. And I thought, no, because it's just scary, because it's new. That's what I kept telling myself. That's what it was. Unfortunately, about 6 months later, the gut feeling I had blew up. And so, I had to pivot. But thankfully, it was a great test for me. It's like I knew what I had to do. I had the skill set and away we go. And then, now I have a business that I own. And it's been fun and amazing and stressful and all the things.
A lot, yeah, all of the above, yeah, and I've
All
been
the
there,
above.
and it just it's awesome to see you do what you've done. There's
Oh,
so
thank you.
many pieces to that.
There's
Just
so many.
from,
Yeah.
and for the listeners again, just from the like going back to running or what do you want, whatever analogy you want to use, but getting off the couch and just putting the shoes on and getting out the door. And even though I've ran for several years, there are still days where I tell myself if I, well, first of all, let me say I've never had a bad run, but there are so many times where it's tough to get out the door if I could just get the
Yeah.
shoes on. So
Yep.
where I'm going with that is so many things to admire about your journey and what you've done because a lot of people can just look at it and say, gosh, that's easy. Or you look from the outside, but getting yourself to even get to the place to jump
Yeah.
takes a lot of work.
It does.
And that's just getting going. And
Hmm.
then there's a lot of other times and points along that period where it's not easy either. You're having to make payroll, you're having to pay the bills, whatever it is, fill the
Right.
pipeline,
Right.
so it's not like you had to decide one time, I'm guessing. And not that like you're going to give up, but there's multiple
Right.
times you've had to say, gosh, is this really what I signed up for? And how do I keep going? And so it's
I
awesome.
listened to a podcast episode recently with Nora O'Donnell, and she's with CBS News, if you're familiar with her or not. She has a new book coming out.
A little bit, but
And
yeah.
yeah, they asked her the question because she's interviewed all the living presidents that we
Oh,
and
wow.
a lot of world leaders. And the question was asked of her, like, okay, what do you think the similarities are between people that have achieved the title of president? And I think I related to it because I think it can also be applied to business owners and entrepreneurs. She said they all have a very strong sense of themselves and
Hmm.
their ability. And I think I challenge all of you, if you're thinking about taking a leap into something new, whether it's business ownership or just, asking for a promotion or just pivoting and stuff like that, I encourage you, I would say more so than anything financial. I mean, because I feel like the financial is a skill. The financial is the run the spreadsheet, see if the numbers work. That's a skill.
Right. Right.
But flexing your muscle around, okay, who am I? What am I capable of? Putting on your armor and getting comfortable with like, I need to ask the hard questions. I need to ask for what I want.
Yeah.
And I need to be unafraid of the consequence that comes with it.
And I think sometimes that's the biggest, unafraid of the consequence that could come with it.
And
Yep.
you can handle it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ultimately, can you handle failure
Right.
and be okay with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying, I think we both have experienced failure in lots of different ways. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
easy. It takes
No,
a toll on you. Yeah.
it
I
does.
mean,
You
and
learn a lot. I will tell people out there though, who was it that said, don't look at it as failure, look at it as, was it falling forward? But
yeah,
I think it's Simon Sinek, but he tries to redefine that because you can learn through failure.
absolutely.
So there can be so much value. So don't discount the idea of, let's call it, quote, failing. That
Right.
can be a good thing. It
Yeah.
moves to move forward. Most likely you've got to fail, and then that can continue to move you. So, but that doesn't say that it's not hard when you're
No,
going through failure.
absolutely.
It's
And
not.
oh no,
Yeah.
not all. It's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
I will even tell you,
Yeah.
even this many years into this business that I know really well, yeah, there are moments where you're like, okay, I mean, I manage it a lot better, and I know what I need to do, put the reps in as far as that. And I'm, constantly working and planning and reshaping and stuff like that. And it gets easier, but it's still there. And
Yeah.
but I think it also gives you an edge. I don't think if you go into life or anything and you never have this like, like, oh
Right.
shit moment,
Yep. Yep. That's right.
then, you're not really experiencing it. It's not meant to be easy all the time. You don't
No,
grow that way.
no, you do not. There's several layers to what you've done. So let's talk about the next scary thing, and then maybe we can wrap it up. But
Okay.
and that's hiring people.
Yeah.
So that's something I will just tell you as someone that failed in business, and had a point where I had to let a lot of people go. The idea of then hiring people again has been, that's been tough, knowing how much I let those people down. So
Mhm.
you know the gravity, and you're living it. So it's one thing to be a sole proprietor, you know,
Mhm.
you fail, it's just you, but now
Right.
you've got others that are counting on you. Um, Anything you want to say or speak to there? I think because you are growing and you added, and it's great. So I think it's,
Yeah.
again, it's cool,
Yeah.
and don't want to belittle that. That's huge. So
I would say the one thing I've realized throughout my career in life is that I had to get really comfortable with delegating. I had to get really comfortable with asking for what I want. And I think if at the same time, when I'm making a hiring decision, the person on the other end of the interview table can be saying all the right things. And I've hired people like that before. In fact, this
yeah.
last year, I actually went through 2 executive assistants that just didn't work out. And that's okay.
Hmm.
I'm like, you know what? But if you handle it with like compassion and grace, and I didn't fire them, but they kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we kind of transitioned them out and stuff like that. But I have had to fire people in my past careers and stuff like that too. It's not easy, but I think if you are compassionate with them and let them
Yeah.
know, hey, listen, we have an expectation, and the expectation wasn't met. I also am a firm believer, if you are somebody that's a business owner or a leader or supervisor of something, please, please, please put metrics into place
Mm.
for your staff and have
Yep.
have accountability sessions for that, because the last thing I want to do is like everything's going along fine and then something happens and you're like, I have to let you go. Now granted, you ask the question like, okay, if my business is failing and I have to shut the doors and I have to let people go, I mean that's got to be hard and crushing. I mean, absolutely. But I also am pretty open with my team. I mean, they know what our goals are, they know what our, income measures are. They know all of it. And so I'm like, I'm it's not just a you're going to go along and get paid. I'm like, here's how we be successful
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And so they know, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, exactly where we're at and what that means,
Yeah.
So I bring them into the conversation.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think most people, that's what they want. They want
That's
to be
what they
part of it.
want.
Yep.
But I think
Yep.
about too, I mean, it kind of go back to childhood and then your whole
Mm.
conversation with money. It's like, not that
Y-
not that I would have understood as like a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old, what my parents made, but we've been honest with our kids as they've gotten older. I'm like, here's
Yeah.
our household income.
I had a
This is how we
former,
choose to spend it. Yeah.
yeah, metrics to your point. I had a former mentor that used to say, keep the score, so you know the score. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like if you were playing whatever game in sports, but there was no scoreboard, that's pretty tough to
Right.
determine what you got to do. So I think employees or anybody that's part of a team and you're trying to measure a goal, if you don't know where you're at, it's tough. And
It's
people
very
just want to
tough.
know where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. So using the fort metaphor, you got one you're working on, another one, like another book, another
Another
you
I
got, yeah.
am working on something else. It's
Okay. I
actually
didn't, wow. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, what fort or forts do you have going? What's
What
coming?
do I have going?
Or
Yeah,
what's
so
next? Yeah.
what's next? Okay.
Yeah.
So, it kind of I would say a lot of things kind of tie into the podcast. So my podcast is called The Small Business Mindset, and I started it because I was getting questions every day from my real estate clients on all different things that weren't real estate related. It's like, okay,
Huh.
how do I establish an LLC? What kind of insurance do I need? Do I need an attorney? I mean, all these things. And
Yeah.
so, you have a conversation, point them in the right direction. But it dawned on me, I'm like, most of my clients are small business owners. And I define small business ownership as like 250 employees or less, but I have clients that are billion plus in assets, and I have some that
Wow.
are brand new startups. I mean, but
What a
the common
range. Yeah.
what a range, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
commonality is that they're all looking to acquire or dispose of real estate in Kansas, where I'm licensed. And more than likely, they do not have anybody on their team that is real estate expert or a market expert in that type of strategy. And so I'm like, okay, that's the commonality. And with my background in some different industries, I do have some expertise working with organizations like that in addition to my board service. So if
Hmm.
it's whether I'm working with a nonprofit or a banking entity, I mean, it's like I can speak the language. And so I also I read a lot, and I come across topics that I'm like, what's relevant? What's timely right now? So, I produced a book, I published a book back in 2013, and then I re-released it in 2020. It's called Golfing in Heels. And the conversation in that book was around, I mean, my experience. I use golf kind of as a fun way, and I love to wear high heels. No, I don't actually golf in heels.
Yeah, right. That'd be tough.
But the conversation of the book has to do with the fact that a lot of women I know don't play golf, have no desire to, or they say, I do, but I'm terrible at it or whatever. And, myself working in business development for years in marketing, I would sit at the table at the golf thing, right? I wouldn't actually play in the golf. I'd be sitting at the table, and all the guys would come by and, oh, hi, whatever, talk to me. And I'm like, how do I get to be one of those people? I want to play, right? What does that mean? And I sucked at golf. I mean, I knew how to play, but I wasn't very good at it. But then it dawned on me, I'm like, why does it have to be golf? So golf tends to be this like professionally etiquette acceptable activity for
Right.
people to do. And, Lance, if you told your boss, you're like, hey, I'm going to go take so-and-so, we're going to play golf today. He's like, bye, see you tomorrow. I mean, you'd be gone, for the whole day. It wouldn't even bat an eye. They'd probably pay for it for you. And I'm thinking there's got to be other activities like golf that we can engage with, whether you're male or female. I mean, and I had a friend of mine, she organized a spa day for some clients. And honestly, and I'm sure people are thinking, oh, great, must be nice. I'm like, well, let's think about it, though. They're engaging in a social activity that's relaxing. They can probably maybe have some cocktails or in a lovely environment. But what they're doing, they're connecting. They're connecting and they're conversing, and they're probably doing a heck of a lot of business because they're sitting in the hot tub together or whatever they're doing.
Yep.
It's like giving ourselves permission to do something different that achieves the same results. That's where the conversation's coming from. So the next step is my next book is going to be called Successible, and it's a made-up word.
Okay.
So
I believe,
success,
Successible. Okay.
accessible, and simple. And where I think people get hung up on so many times is when they want to achieve success. And I use that term very broadly, whether you're achieving success in business or life. It's like, yes, there are steps you can put into place to achieve that, whatever it is. It's kind of a roadmap for that. And so that will be out here in the next couple of months, which should be fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to butcher, but I was going to say eating the proverbial elephant. You're not going to eat it. It's one bite at a time. It's just getting on that path, and you'll get there. And that'll be great. Well, that's awesome, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I know we could go longer, but I know it's let's call it. I'm not sure when this will come out, but it's a Friday today, and so I know I want you to be able to get on to the weekend, and I think I'll be doing the same. And I was so looking forward to this, and I really appreciate the time that you gave me and gave the listeners, and it was very valuable to me. Like I think I've said before, I learn a lot from your podcasts and listening to them. So I would encourage everybody out there, if you enjoyed this, Kirsten's got a lot of good stuff on the Small Business Mindset podcast. And again, I appreciate what you're doing with your business and then the time you give in the community. So it's been a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for pushing me and encouraging me to take this leap.
Well, you launched. You did it.
I launched.
Podcast is here.
And what'd you say? I think you said if I do more than 3 or there's some stat out there. If most people quit,
they do
short of 3. So
Yep.
I don't know what my goal is, but it's more than 3. So,
but consistency pays off. It's the rep. It's getting the reps in. That's all it is. It's putting your running shoes on every morning.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
That's true. You're exactly right. And actually, probably sometimes the more, let's call it bloopier or messed up they are, they're probably more fun to watch. So
that's right.
Anything else you want to leave us with? Any other piece of advice or anything?
That's a lot of pressure. Piece of advice.
No, you know what? No pressure. So here we go. If I had a margarita, this is I don't have a margarita in my hand, but if I had one, I'd cheers you. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I'm looking forward to the book coming out. And I'll keep tuning into your podcast.
Sounds great. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you. What part of your story might be shaping who you're becoming, even if you haven't fully named it yet? This is the Fort Builders. Thanks for being part of the build.